The world ended 8 years ago. Now your talent decides whether you live as a hero or die as forgotten prey. 8 years ago, disaster descended. The sky tore apart and a colossal black hole appeared above the city. From it spilled endless monsters, dragging the world into chaos. Space and time warped, allowing alien creatures to invade freely. Humanity was nearly wiped out. The population collapsed and survival became a luxury. This catastrophe was later named the Demon Tide. At the brink of extinction, a mysterious force altered Earth's magnetic field. That change awakened a strange system, a job-based power structure that reshaped human civilization. People began awakening unique abilities, choosing professions tied to special skills. These powers could be used in the real world, and a person's talent determined their limits and future growth. To prepare the next generation, academies were built. Students trained in simulated environments, facing structured systems, difficulty levels, and dungeons designed for real combat. At Jiang City's top career academy, the most important day had arrived. The principal appeared on the giant screen. "You've completed your basic training," he announced. "Today you awaken your talents. Today you enter your first dungeon." A radiant magic circle lit up the schoolyard. His voice carried pride and resolve. "From this moment on, you are professionals. Protect humanity, even at the cost of your lives." As a countdown began and names were called, tension filled the air. Among the students stood a young man, calm and determined. Everything since his arrival in this world had led to today. He knew talent awakening meant everything. Talents were ranked common, rare, legendary, courtier, and myths. No human had ever awakened a myth-tier talent yet. Elite professions like swordsmen and mages were the most desired, followed by assassins, summoners, soldiers, and priests. Priests, however, were seen as the weakest, lacking offense, mobility, and battlefield impact. In most dungeons, other classes could clear enemies alone, but priests struggled. Even experienced players rarely saw priests make a real impact, as they were usually limited to healing, tanking damage, and staying in the background. At higher levels, a skilled mage or summoner could easily replace a priest altogether. With no clear combat role, priests gradually became the subject of mockery. Just then, a girl gently tugged at his sleeve and smiled as she asked whether he had decided to become a mage, soldier, or assassin. He grinned and gave a playful wink, saying there was no point thinking about it yet because a person only discovered what suited them after their natural talent awakened. She frowned slightly, clearly annoyed, and replied that she was only asking for fun. That girl was no ordinary student. She studied at Jiang City's #1 career academy, and her name was Mumu. The boys nearby could not hide their admiration and sighed dramatically, praising how stunning the goddess Mumu looked that day. He, however, did not react. Calmly, he reached out and patted her on the head, a simple gesture that sent shockwaves through the surrounding male students, each of them burning with envy. Among the crowd stood a silver-haired young man with a dark expression and tightly clenched jaw. He sneered inwardly, calling him a parasite who always acted superior, and decided to see what kind of talent he would awaken. Suddenly, a loud shout cut through the noise as number 101 was called to awaken. The screen lit up, displaying a rare and powerful natural talent with skills increased by 50%. The crowd erupted in shock, with people exclaiming that it was unbelievable and declaring that he was a perfect match for the soldier class, certain he would dominate the academy. The purple-haired boy, number 101, noticed the attention shift, and his expression darkened when his gaze landed on Mumu. He muttered coldly that he wanted to see what an orphan like him had that could catch her attention. He was about to continue when someone placed a hand on Mumu's shoulder, trying to lead her away. She immediately spun around and snapped, asking why he always acted as if he did not care about anyone else's opinion. His answer came without hesitation, as he said that becoming the strongest was all that mattered. As he spoke, his thoughts drifted back to a memory carved deep into his soul, the day monsters overran the world. He had been only a child when his parents dragged him through the chaos, fleeing for their lives. His father urged them forward, pointing toward a shelter and telling them they were almost there. His mother tried to calm him, whispering that everything would be okay. Then, without warning, a monster struck, and the violent blow sent all three of them flying apart. Terrified, he screamed for his father. But his wounded dad shouted back, telling him to get inside and saying he was fine. Even as his mother was dragged away, she turned her head and cried out, "You must survive." At that moment, the shelter doors opened. Someone spotted him and shouted that there was a survivor. They told others to get the boy inside. Inside the shelter, he met a woman. She was Mumu's mother. She looked at him gently and told him that from that day on, they were family. She asked him to come home with her. Still lost in thought, he made a silent promise to himself. Only by gaining power could he protect the people who mattered. Suddenly, a notification appeared on the screen. Number 1128 was called to prepare for awakening. He turned to Mumu and whispered for her to wait there. He promised he would be back. She looked annoyed at first. But as he walked away, a hint of concern appeared on her face. He stepped into the glowing circle. In an instant, the world around him changed. It felt like being pulled into the center of space. He looked around dazzled. This was where his natural talent would awaken. When he reached out and touched the shining light, a powerful surge of energy exploded. 2 dragons appeared, one black and one red. They coiled around him and then vanished into his body. A new screen appeared. It announced that he had awakened a legendary talent called Reversal of the Universe. It asked if he wished to hide this talent. His heart skipped a beat. This was a mythical level power. No human had ever unlocked something like this. Without hesitation, he chose to hide it. Knowledge flowed into his mind. At level 1, Reversal boosted all personal skills. It could reverse their effects. It could also turn skills on or off. At higher levels, it could completely change a skill's nature. His current bonus reduced mana cost by 10%. Reversed buffs became debuffs. Debuffs became buffs. To level up, he needed to reach level 10. At that point, he would gain full control over activation. He chuckled quietly. Now he understood why talents could be hidden. A power this absurd had to stay secret. With a faint smirk, he thought of the possibilities. Enemy attacks could heal him. Allies' healing could become damage. It was a double-edged sword. But in the right hands, it was unstoppable. Then a voice echoed from the loudspeaker. Number 1128's awakening was complete. Talent status, hidden. Mumu ran over quickly and asked how it went. She asked if he awakened something strong. He stopped her immediately. It's a secret, he said. The nearby students did not believe him. Laughter quickly broke out as someone mocked that he must have awakened a worthless talent, calling it trash for a trash student and saying the goddess had wasted her time on him. Another announcement followed immediately. Number 1128 was instructed to proceed to job selection, while number 1233, Mumu, was called to prepare for talent awakening. He gently nudged her forward and told her it was her turn. She scolded him lightly, asking if he could not be a little more gentle. The awakening area and profession selection area stood side by side. After awakening a talent, each student had to pass the statue of the goddess to choose their profession. He lifted his gaze toward the towering statue, deep in thought, when a voice prompted him to select his profession. He narrowed his eyes. If his talent could truly bend reality, then the choice had to be precise. He needed a profession that could fully unleash its potential, cover weaknesses, and amplify his strengths. Without hesitation, he reached out and selected the priest card, stating firmly that this was his choice. The monument paused as if uncertain. Then a voice asked him to confirm whether he truly chose the priest profession, nodding that he was the first student to select this path. He answered without doubt that he was sure. The moment he confirmed, golden light erupted from the card and surged into his body. The transfer was complete. A black cloak formed around him and a staff appeared in his hand. The announcement board updated with his profile. His profession was priest with 100 HP. Below 80, minor injuries caused slight stat reduction. Below 30, severe injuries caused moderate stat loss. Below 5 was critical condition, and at 0 meant death. His ghost value was 100. His talent was listed as mythical level, Reversal of the Universe. His attributes showed balanced values across strength, constitution, mentality, spirit, and agility. One skill was unlocked, Healing Magic, which restored 50 HP to a target with a 5-second cooldown and 10 mana cost. The second skill was Purification Technique, restoring 30 MP with a 12-second cooldown and no mana cost. He tested the staff with a forward swing. Instantly, his eyes glowed red as crimson lightning crackled around him. A new panel appeared, showing that Healing Magic had been reversed, now depriving the target of 50 HP instead of restoring it with a slightly reduced mana cost. A satisfied smile formed on his lips. It worked exactly as he had hoped. His healing was not treated as damage, meaning it ignored enemy armor, striking cleanly like a spear thrust. While it did not match a mage's raw spell output, it gave him a clear advantage against enemies with magic resistance. He then turned his attention to the second skill, Purification Technique. On the surface, it seemed weak, something even beginner mages could imitate with low-level spells. But he knew better. In battles against magic users, draining mana at the right moment could completely destroy an opponent's strategy. He quickly did the math in his head and his path became clear. He was an offensive support class with hidden fangs. Still, one thing stood out clearly: he would need to be extremely cautious when using healing on teammates. In a reverse state, support skills became lethal, and a buff meant to strengthen could instead turn into a devastating strike. He nodded to himself, fully aware that his power was dangerous even to allies, but in the right hands it was unbeatable. The crowd was already buzzing with excitement, but when someone chose the priest profession, the entire area erupted in laughter. To them, it was obvious that priests only hid behind stronger teammates. At that moment, the loudspeaker blared again, calling number 1233 Sumu to awaken her legendary talent and summon her soul. The crowd gasped as her talent was revealed, life release, the ability to summon a soul from another world to fight alongside her. The same students who had mocked her moments ago immediately scrambled to flatter her. They whispered excitedly, questioning if they had heard correctly and praising her as the goddess Mumu, the only one to awaken a legendary talent. Many wondered which profession she would choose, but Mumu ignored all the praise, remaining completely unfazed. She had always been the top student in theory class, a true genius. Some scoffed at the sight of a low-ranked monk daring to stay by her side, mocking him for trying to cling to the goddess. They sneered that someone like him should be satisfied just bowing at her feet. Mumu stepped forward toward the goddess statue as the voice prompted her to choose her profession. Without hesitation, she declared that she would become a mage. Whispers rippled through the crowd as the principal nodded in satisfaction, praising the choice of a legendary talent becoming a mage and nodding that she could one day join a professional alliance. Still, his attention drifted elsewhere. What truly mattered to him was that boy. He watched quietly, knowing it had been years since any student willingly chose the priest path. Behind him, a red-robed figure murmured that the boy did not seem forced into his choice. Their leader's eyes lit up with interest and quietly remarked that it was intriguing. After finishing her ceremony, Mumu hurried over to him, gave a sly wink, and proudly showed off her mage robes, joking that they could not party together anymore. He simply shook his head and told her that he had his own plan. She blinked in confusion, sensing there might be something deeper behind his words. Suddenly, a notice flashed across the screen, announcing that the Wolf Forest Beginner Dungeon was now open. A shimmering purple portal appeared, calling to those who had awakened their talents and chosen their paths. Just then, a student swaggered over with a smug grin and mocked him, asking if he was already in love and telling him to help invite Mumu to his party. He promised rewards if Linny followed his lead. Someone behind him scoffed, saying that without the goddess, no one would care about a priest at all. Another sneered that Linny was just pretending and would back out soon enough. Linny simply replied that he refused. The same student immediately flared up in anger, warning him that he would regret it. At that point, the principal finally stepped in, stating that regardless of talent, all deputies had to cooperate because fighting monsters alone was nearly impossible. The student who had been shouting moments earlier instantly changed his attitude, smiling and calling out respectfully to the principal, but the principal did not waver. He reminded them that once facing monsters, personal grudges had to be set aside. Calmly, Linny said that he did not hate anyone and simply believed that clearing dungeons solo offered more experience and better rewards. The principal paused in surprise, clearly taken aback by the idea of a priest choosing to go alone. He tried to persuade him, saying that even if things went badly, Linny could always switch teams and that risking his life over pride was dangerous, as injuries and death inside dungeon copies were very real. Linny remained unfazed. He thanked the principal and said he had already made up his mind and would clear the dungeon alone. In truth, he had already calculated everything. Solo runs were the fastest way to level up, and more importantly, until he became strong enough, his god-level talent had to remain hidden. The principal watched him leave, still wondering what gave him such confidence. As Linny stepped toward the dungeon gate, another notice appeared, warning that this was a new player trial dungeon, highly dangerous, with team entry strongly recommended. Without hesitation, he confirmed his choice.